Hey, how's it going? It's me, 𝗦𝗫𝗃𝗀𝗃. I'm not dead! Surprising, I know. No, I'm still here. Um, I'm still alive, clearly. I had an idea to... I had this idea randomly last night where I thought it'd be a good idea if... What if I just talked, right? Talk about what exactly? So, do you know about the FGC? Do you like fighting games? No? Well, too bad. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So this is basically going to be a there's no script. I kind of just have a general guideline of talking points that I'm going to discuss and talk about. But in general, there's no script. There's no script whatsoever. This is just me, a campfire, and you, of course. And we're just going to talk, right? So this is basically just going to be how I got into the FGC, right? So, man, where do I start? Where do I start? Do you like my avatar, by the way? I paid $20 for this. This is an official Rivals of Aether 2 imported avatar in VR chat, and I don't even remember how much. I think it was like 2,400 fucking Bitcoin or whatever VR coin, whatever VR chat calls it these days. Their premium currency, it was 2,400. That equates to about 20 bucks IRL. So this model was 20 bucks. And I find it hilarious because the game right now, Rivals 2, is actually full price 30 bucks. And this model was 20. So that's like, I don't know the percent, but 75, 80% of the fucking game's price. I don't know. I thought that was ridiculous. No shade to Aether Studios or anything, you know. I'm happy to support the studio. I love Fleet, so and I had some extra spending money, so why not, right? But god damn, you know. Anyway, oh yeah, back to the discussion at hand, right? So, oh, that's very pretty. You can't see it, but I'm looking up and there's some stars. There's some pretty stars up there. I'm stalling. Can you tell I'm nervous? In a way, me talking now is also going to be kind of just learning to talk in general. I don't really have these deep discussions with people, you know? I never truly sit down and just talk. So, this is kind of in a way going to be therapeutic for me, you know? And just to kind of help learn how to talk to people, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, how I got into the FGC. Sorry, are you still here? Anyway, well, it all goes back to retro games. I love retro games. There's so much history and art, right? You can say there's so much that I've missed out on. Obviously, because I wasn't around when these consoles were a thing. I'm talking about, you know, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. My family did have a Sega Genesis growing up, but, you know, I was a little kid, and I didn't really know what I was doing, right? But the point is, there's a lot of history and a lot of games that I actually missed out on. So I've always been into retro games. You know, I've always loved Mario. Who doesn't like Mario? Mega Man. I love Mega Man. Very much love Mega Man. Castlevania. I freaking love Castle. If you know me, you know that I love Castlevania. And I'm a big retro game nerd. I really am. You know, I do emulate a lot. I used to be pro original hardware kind of guy. Gotta play it on the CRT, man. It's the only way kind of guy. But I realized how quickly things got really expensive. So I bought a big old freaking Sony CRT TV to play Final Fantasy and Silent Hill for the PlayStation 1 on. That thing cost me like $200, and it was huge. Like there's, if you know anything about old school CRT TVs, they are big, they're bulky, and they're heavy. There is no way one person can lift one of those. Excuse me. There's no way one person could lift one of those. There's just no way in hell. So you need two people for those kind of TVs. I'll see if I can find a picture of one that I had that was similar. But anyway, yeah, I used to actually buy, real hardware and that kind of stuff. And the point being, I really like retro games, and I still play them to this day. I believe that games aren't made like they used to. There's just something charming about the old school, classic, difficult games that are just super fun. I don't know, they're timeless. These games are timeless. They really are. And the reason why I bring up retro games is because my introduction to the FGC, or in this case, fighting games in general, actually goes back to my childhood and Street Fighter 2 by Capcom. Street Fighter 2. It all starts there. I have really fond memories of playing Street Fighter 2 with my father. And when I was a little kid, obviously I didn't know how to play, right? And my dad would kick my ass in game. He would always play. I can't remember the green guy's name. I think his name's Blanca. And he would just keep spamming the freaking electric attack where he's like stationary and he's like electrocuting. And if you touch him, you get electrified. That's all my dad would do. He would just spam that and I would lose every time. And of course, I didn't have like a favorite character or anything. I just kind of played whoever. I always defaulted to Ryu for some reason. I don't know. I just thought maybe it's because Ryu was like the guy on the cover of the game. He's like the main character that I kind of just gravitated towards him. But I always played Ryu. And, some of my best memories of, hanging out with my dad, who is a figure in my life that I never really got to spend too much time with, right? But the chances that I did to hang out with him, a lot of my fondness came from when him and I used to play games. And of course, they were retro games. That's actually how I got introduced to games like Ghouls and Ghosts and Ghosts and Goblins, Street Fighter, Gunsmoke, 1942, or is it 1943? I think it's 1943. The game with the airplanes, and it's like a top-down view. It's like a bullet hell. That's how my dad is how I got into retro games, and Street Fighter was the catalyst. I freaking love Street Fighter 2 because of the memories I have with my father. And just don't get the wrong idea. My father's not dead or anything. I don't really have the best relationship with him, and I actually haven't spoken to him in over a year. I'm not going to get into the details, but that's just kind of how things are. Fast forward to a couple years ago. Again, I'm out here playing retro games, and I had every once in a while I get this urge to play some Street Fighter. I don't know. Street Fighter 2 is just so hype. The music, the sound effects, the characters. Shoryuken and freaking, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It gets hype. I love Street Fighter 2. And I was like, dude, how cool would it be if I had an arcade stick, right? And this is where things start. This right here, this moment is the moment where I slowly, as when I dipped my toes in the FGC. So I was like, bro, imagine if I had an arcade stick. And my thought process was, even if I get the arcade stick and I don't play Street Fighter 2 with it, I can still play retro games with it, because you know there are arcade games that I do like that utilize an arcade stick. So I saw it as a win-win. I ended up buying one by 8BitDo, if you're familiar with that company. Very cool company. I love their products. I've bought 3 different controllers from them. One of them was the arcade stick, which I'll throw on screen, and another one was this controller. But the first one I got was actually wired, and then the second one I got was the same controller but wireless. The first one kind of pooped on. It got pooped on. It just stopped working for some reason, and then so I bought a Bluetooth one. But very good controllers. I believe the Bluetooth one is called the SN30 Pro or something like that. But anyway, I bought this arcade stick. If you're familiar with arcade sticks and the fighting game scene, there are so many arcade sticks and fight pads. Well, we won't get into fight pads. Technically, fight pads is something different, but there's so many different arcade sticks out there, right? So it's like, which one's the right one for me? I don't freaking know. I'm a filthy casual. What do I know about arcade sticks? So I ended up just kind of doing some research, and I found this channel called, I'm gonna put it on screen, but I think his name was 𝗦𝗍𝗃𝗏𝗏, and he had done a review on the arcade stick that I ended up buying. And one of the things that stuck out to me was how modding friendly this arcade stick was. I'm very big when it comes to tinkering things. I love modding in general. Anything that has to do with like tinkering and modding shit, that's my jam. So when I found out that this arcade stick was modding friendly, I was like, oh yeah, this is it, right? Yeah, I found out the arcade stick was modding friendly, and that's what sealed the deal for me. So I started playing some Street Fighter 2. I ended up buying the Capcom Fighting Game Collection, and it has literally every single version of Street Fighter 2 under the sun. And can we talk about why there's so many different versions of Street Fighter 2? Like, god damn. I know Street Fighter 2 in its prime was like super, super popular, but did we really need like 10 different versions of the same game? I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so the Capcom Fighting Game Collection comes with every single Street Fighter 2 version. It comes with Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Alpha 3, which I think are technically 3 different games. I think Third Strike, I believe, right? It also had Darkstalkers, I think. Vampire Survivors. The names get confusing. I think you know what I'm talking about. And I think that was it. So quite a handful, but I primarily bought it to play Street Fighter, right? Well, I remember having and get this, right? So when I got this arcade stick and I got the Capcom Fighting Game Collection, I didn't even like actually play for real. I just spent hours practicing inputs, especially the Dragon Punch input. And I had a blast. That did it for me. I think it's so cool that in a fighting game to do a special move, you got to do the input. There's just something so satisfying about doing that. Like, you know, you're doing your thing and you got to do oh shoot, I got to do the DP input, and then bam, and you pull it off, and then he goes Shoryuken, and then you pull it off. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. It kind of, in a way, when it comes to fighting games, having to actually input something to do a special move or whatever it may be, in a way, it kind of makes you feel like you're what's the word? Like you're physically connected with the game and what you're doing, and I love that so much. I think it's awesome. So I spent some time just kind of practicing inputs, and I had fun, but I never really like actually played online. And then I got into Third Strike. Man, what a game. If you know anything about the FGC, you know about Street Fighter Third Strike. That game is awesome. Very famous for its pixel art and its animations, specifically its animations actually, and just how like good the game feels, right? That's a timeless game for sure. There's so many people that still play it to this day, and that game's probably older than me. So I got into Third Strike thanks to 𝗦𝗍𝗂𝗍𝗀𝗀, dude. I loved watching him play some Third Strike, and just seeing the cool animations and just the characters. It just looked super fun. So I ended up getting into Third Strike for a little bit, and I for a little while. For a little while, I was playing in 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏. If you know anything about 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, I won't go into detail about 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏. I'll let you do your own research. But got into Third Strike on 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 for a while, and I don't know, just I was practicing Dudley. I wanted to be a Dudley main, and I don't know, I just kind of fell out of it, dude. Like I don't. One day I was super into it, and then the next day I wasn't, and that's just kind of how it was. At some point around this time is I ended up taking a really big break from fighting games in general, and my arcade stick ended up just collecting dust. And it was around this time when one of my good friends had actually introduced me to Rivals of Aether. And prior to this moment, I never even heard of Rivals of Aether, like at all. And he was like, bro, you gotta get this game. It's like super fun. There's like custom characters and stuff. It's like it feels it's kind of similar to Smash, dude. You gotta try it. And he actually bought the game for me, so don't think I forgot about that. You know who you are. He bought the game for me, and we ended up playing it. I wasn't super into it. It was fun to play, but I didn't feel like I wanted to invest my time into this game or anything like that. I remember playing a lot of 𝗬𝗫𝗀𝗀𝗏. She was like the one character that I was able to like actually beat my friend with. And even then, I didn't know what I was doing. I just, button mash, that kind of thing. So, a little after I stopped playing Rivals of Aether, a little indie game came out by the same studio, Dungeons of Aether, right? I had kept my eye on it, and it looked super fun. I remember playing a demo, and I was like, man, this game's so cool. What? Up until this point, I had never actually played a roguelike game before. This Dungeons of Aether was actually my first time. And I fell in love with the game immediately. I thought it was charming. The pixel art was super good. I loved the concept. The idea of like the RNG dice and like having to manage like some of your resources, every character having a different kit and different ways to handle a situation. It was super cool. And this is actually where I got introduced to Fleet. So the game ended up coming out, and I played a lot of Dungeons of Aether. And it's funny because truly, you have a good game when the gameplay is so good, you don't even want to touch story mode. You just want to get straight into the action. To this day, I have never played the story mode of Dungeons of Aether. I have only strictly played the challenge dungeons, or whatever it's called. It's the mode where you just get straight into the gameplay and you try to see how far you can get. I've only ever played that because the gameplay is just that much fun. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I can go back and play the story mode. I mean, who knows? Maybe that'll be an idea for a video, right? But Dungeons of Aether, super hype. This is actually, again, this is where I got introduced to Fleet. And then one day my friend's like, the same friend that introduced me to Rivals of Aether, right? He's like, bro, did you know that they're making a fighting game? Like a Rivals of Aether 2? And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? A part 2? And he's like, yeah, man, you got to check it out. And I saw like a trailer, I saw the Kickstarter, and I was like, whoa, dude, what the heck? It's like the characters that I had just seen 2D in pixel art are now like 3D rendered and like moving all over the place, and they look cool and awesome. And I was like, dude, this is hype. And I found out that Fleet was going to be in the game, bro. I was like, dude, I have to play this. I'm playing this when it drops. It has Fleet in the game? Keep in mind, by this point, I was in love with Fleet. I bought her freaking plushie when her Fleet's plush came out around the same time when Dungeons of Aether first dropped. Like when it was officially released, that's the same time that they released her plush. So I was already a Fleet fan. So when I found out that Fleet would be in Rivals 2, I'm locking in. I'm all in. So I ended up donating to the Kickstarter, and that was it. I paid $20, which I think was like the minimum tier, and I got the game on launch for $20. So me and my friend would play they had prior to having public betas, they would have backer only betas, and me and my friend played a couple of those backer only betas, and we would just kind of bullshit and just have fun. But around this time, we kind of built like this rivalry between each other. My friend plays Raster, and of course me playing Fleet, and we kind of had this rivalry going where we were gonna like, yeah, man, we're gonna get good, we're gonna beat each other up, and we're gonna grow together, bro, yeah. And then when the game came out, he hardly played. No offense to you, my friend, you know who you are. I know you've got a bunch of other stuff going on. You're probably not as invested as I am, but I don't know. It was I thought that, you know, I was gonna have a buddy to just kind of grow with the game with, but it didn't end up working that way. And you know, as much as that kind of sucks, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, even after the game finally launched, him and I would still play here and there, but obviously he wasn't as invested into it as I was. I'm gonna drink some water. So eventually Rivals of Aether 2 ends up getting released in October 23rd of 2024. I know. I know the day it came out. I'm a nerd. And I ended up playing it a lot. At the time, and even to this day, I believe, and I'll get to that. There wasn't a whole lot to Rivals of Aether 2 at its launch. Really, the game launched with just local play, online, and ranked. That's literally it. And in a training mode, of course. And there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to do, but I mean, it's a fighting game. What are you gonna do besides fighting people, right? So I just kind of did my thing, and I'd play here and there. Didn't get into ranked quite. Didn't get into ranked quite yet. Eventually, I would. And again, I'll get into that a little bit later. One day, maybe like a month or so in, not even like a month in, right around the launch day, actually, I was just kind of chilling in my room, and I'm thinking to myself, hey man, I know Smash Brothers Ultimate has such a huge fighting game scene, right? Like, there's such a huge community dedicated to Super Smash Brothers. And keep in mind, I was addicted to Rivals 2. I was super addicted. I could not get enough of this game. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, surely there's a community out there that's local, that with people that love the game just as much as I do, right? And this is how I got introduced to the local Rivals of Aether 2 scene. And I'm not going to get into, I'm not going to name specific people or the names of these specific events or locations for the sake of privacy and, you know, to respect my community's members' privacies as well. But I ended up finding a tournament that was being hosted on Halloween. I believe it was on Halloween or sometime before Halloween. I'm not too sure. I can't remember. If I find out, I'll put it on screen. But I was like, and it was only like an hour-ish away. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to go. I'm just going to go. I ended up just heading out with my shitty little Xbox controller. And again, it was a Halloween-themed tournament. So one of the things that was said was, hey, dress up. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know what I was getting into. All I knew was there was people out there that loved this game just as much as I did, and I needed to be with them. So I just freaking threw on a freaking panda onesie, and off I went, right? And I showed up to this house. It was a house tourney, by the way. There's different kinds of tournaments, tournament settings. Typically, you have locals. When it comes to locals, right? Typically, it's like either at someone's house, maybe some kind of local business, and then you have big ones like regionals. I believe Genesis, if I'm not mistaken, is like a regional. That one's in San Jose. But you get what I mean. Like they grow in size. You know, the more serious it gets. And so this was just just a little house tourney. Obviously, I didn't go in thinking I was going to be kick ass, top dog, or anything. I just wanted to go and see what was up, right? I had never been to a tournament before. This was my first time. Again, I didn't know anybody. I I just I just went. I literally my thought process was, "Oh my god, this is happening tomorrow. I'm going," kind of thing. Take another water break. Anyway, I show up to this house, right? And again, wasn't sure what to expect. You know, I knock on the door, whatever, go inside, and I'll never forget it. This magical feeling I got. I walk into this man's house, and the house is like kind of somewhat dimly lit, and there's like Halloween decorations everywhere, setting up the vibe and the spirit of the holiday. And I look out into the living room, and there is literally CRTs everywhere. Everywhere I looked, there was a CRT, and you would hear the little CRT, that white noise, and on every single CRT was like, it was either Melee, P plus. I don't think they had Ultimate there, but it was either Super Smash Brothers Melee or P plus, which is like a brawl mod, I think. Everywhere you looked, it was freaking awesome, dude. I don't know how to explain it. Just imagine walking into a room and just it felt like I was in heaven. It really did. Like I was with my people, dude. Like I don't know how else to describe it. You had to be there. Just it was so, oh my gosh. I had, up until that point, I had never experienced something quite like that before. Anyway, I ended up showing up a little bit early, and one of the guys that was supposed to be bringing the Rivals 2 setups didn't quite show up yet. And as I was driving to this house tourney, I was actually panicking a little bit because I thought I was going to be late. But it ended up being the other way around, where the guy that was supposed to bring the Rivals 2 setups ended up being late. So I ended up just kind of chilling out for a bit, just kind of, you know, meeting people. I ended up meeting the tournament organizer. Again, I'm not going to drop any names, but this guy is super chill, super welcoming. Like, I didn't even know who this was, and he felt like a brother. Like, just such a cool guy. And then, like, to have people, like, to let people come to his house and just kind of like vibe and just play games, dude. Like, this guy's awesome. Eventually, the guy that brought the Rivals 2 setup shows up, and you know, they get everything set up, and the tournament begins. Right? There's a few different brackets going on, and keep in mind all these terms: bracket, TO. There was a lot of terms that were being thrown around that I had no idea what people were talking about. I had no idea what they're talking about. So I just kind of rolled with it, dude. The tournament started, and I'll never forget this too. The first guy I fought in my first ever tournament was a mirror match. The other guy was playing Fleet as well, but I'm sitting there with my little shitty Xbox controller, and I look to my left. Bro has like this giant brick with face buttons on it, and I was like, what the hell? You play on that thing? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what am I even looking at? What is this? It looks like an arcade stick, but it's not. It was a rectangle controller. I don't know which one he had, but it was, just imagine, and I'll put a picture on screen. It's literally just a brick with a bunch of face buttons. And that's how he was playing. And he was kicking my ass. And it blew my mind. I was more infatuated with bro's controller that I didn't really care about the game. I'd never seen anything like that. And I was like, what the F, dude? This is awesome. I ended up losing. I think I went 2-0 that day. But I had a lot of fun. I ended up meeting some cool people. I got introduced to some people that I still know today. And it was just good times. That was probably one of the funnest nights I ever had. This was at a time when I wasn't working too, so I ended up staying hella late, like almost 2 in the morning. And just good times, man. Like, I had such a good time. There was food, there was drinks, like everyone was in good spirits. It was just such a nice first time experience for me. Like, and I felt so sad when I had to drive home, because it was like, no, I want to do more. I want more. So that wasn't the last time I went to bro's house for a house tournament. I've been there a few times, and that's how I got introduced to the local Rivals 2 scene. These days I'm not as involved. There's quite a few reasons as to why, but I don't think now's a good time to get into it, you know? This video was mostly supposed to just be a little bit more positive. It's supposed to be more positive, so again, I'm not as involved with that community as I was in the past, and again, there's a bunch of different reasons as to why that's the case, but that's how I got into the Rivals 2 scene. And from that moment forward, when I saw how cracked these other players were, I was like, bro, I need to get good, because Like, I was no match, like, at all. I was just like a little newbie. Just a little newbie. A little guppy. I was a guppy in a lake, bro. A guppy in a lake. As time went on, I started to put a lot of practice in. This is when I actually started to get into ranked too. And I remember I had the bright idea of, bro, let me record my first time playing ranked. That'd make an awesome video. And what do you know? I did it. It's on my channel if you haven't seen it already. I do encourage you to check it out. And ever since that day, you know, I've just done what I could to get better at the game and grow. I remember one time there had been a dry spell since I had went to one of those house tournaments. And one day I go back and it felt really nice to hear a lot of those good players tell me that they would tell me straight up, "Hey man, you've improved since the last time. That's awesome, dude. Keep it up." And you know, that make me feel real good. It make me feel real good. I like that. And you know, I just kept playing ranked, and I think the farthest when I first played ranked, I almost placed silver, but I got placed high bronze, like at the border of silver. And then for a while I was stuck in silver, and the last time I can't even remember the last time I played Rivals 2. I'll throw the, as of today, I can't remember the last time I played Rivals 2, and I will throw up on screen the last time that I played it. But anyway, the highest I've been in ranked was like high-end silver. I was one match away from being in gold, and I got gate kept by another fleet. And that was the last time I actually really played the game. And since then, just because of personal reasons and life in general, I just kind of fell off the game. But I've been feeling pretty nostalgic about Rivals 2 and the people I've met and how much fun I used to have with this game and its community. So that's actually what inspired me to make this video. I was feeling nostalgic. This all comes back to nostalgia. And I think I'm going to get back into it. I think I'm going to go back to playing and, you know, grow. That's part of the fun. Part of the fun is, you know, actually playing the game, but growing too, you know? If there's one thing that I learned from fighting games is that they taught me how to lose. I remember when I first got into like playing for real, I'd get so mad and get so upset when I lost. But all I had to do was just kind of change my mindset. And at that point, no game was actually a failure, you know? It was all growth. And it's just super cool, man. If you ever want to go on a spiritual journey and like grow, play some fighting games. Play some fighting games. There's this really cool video on this philosophy that I've watched, and it's so true. I'll throw it up on screen as well, and I'll put it in the description so you can check it out. Super cool stuff. But that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of where we're at. There's a lot that there's a lot more that I've purposely left out because I feel like those particular subjects could be their own videos in and of themselves, you know what I'm saying? And plus I'd have to do a little bit more research. Like I would love to make a video about the time I went to Genesis. That'd be fun, right? My first ever big convention, which was a fighting game convention. That would have been fun to talk about. It'd be cool to talk about the funky controller I bought from that convention and how I like grew with that controller. It'd be fun to talk about Fleet. Fleet, there's not a whole lot of Fleet lore, but like there's interesting things to talk about in regards to Fleet the character. And I think that'd be a fun video too. So there's quite a bit. I've got quite a few bit ideas, but this video was just mainly supposed to be just, you know, how I got into the FGC, and that's basically it, man. Again, I haven't really been playing, but eventually, you know, I'll get back into it. I miss kind of making videos too. They were fun and goofy. You know, even if my goal isn't to be the best out there, at least I'm having fun. You know, right? And that's the important thing. Yeah. Anyway, it's already super late, so I think it's time this comes to an end. Thanks a lot for, you know, listening to what I have to say. And until next time, you know, maybe next time it'll be another Rivals 2 ranked video. Maybe it'll be another campfire story. Who knows? But until then, take care of yourself. Thanks for listening. Until next time.